And I am live. I am live, and apparently a funny day. Normally I tweet out this link. We say hello to Golden Coin 100 first in the live chat. Normally I tweet out the link when I go live, and for whatever reason, Twitter seems to be down. That's fine. That's okay. I'm gonna say hello to Golden Coin 100, and if Golden Coin 100 confirms that my audio is okay, I'm probably just gonna at that point give Golden Coin 100 the gold coin for participation, and then shrink the live chat. We say hello to Tolkien Study. Tolkien Study, silver medal onto thee. Silver medal onto, and Jonaside. We got Jonaside with the bronze, and we have Mario Heat with our honorable mention. And we are good to go, gentlemen. We are good to go, gentlemen. So I'm going to bid you fondue till the end of the stream. I'm just going to close out the live chat just until the end of the stream, just for clarity's sake and just to move forward. Not because I don't love you, I do, but it's because I love you that I shrink the live chat down. I want to shrink the live chat down until the end, until we do, if we have time for some like Q&A or some conversation, because it's because I love you that you guys and gals and everyone in between are such a distraction. I come to you, I stop talking, I start talking to you, we introduce new conversations, and then before you know it, we have a wonderful thing, but we don't necessarily have what I wanted to say. And then sometimes things go off the rails. I've made the decision to take the last two videos that were up on this channel and set them to private. And it's on that live chat point that maybe it's worthwhile talking about, because it was, the because of this decision, I have I'm really faced with the fact that I've got like 5 hours of content that I had that I, right, don't have now. When it comes to the first video, we had like 3 hours of what I thought was, great stuff, maybe all over the map, but we were doing some stuff regarding, the concept of the meta RPG and the meta RPG, spellcraft, the spells generated from watching movies, and the new concept of taking those spells and using them as, we had previously talked about this conceptually as using the spells for different things, like as substitutes or like as aspects of characters' abilities in different gaming systems, but we had never actually kind of done anything practical with it. We had done something practical with it and pragmatic with it after a fashion by taking some spells, and we'll go into that, how that happens, that I generated from a 2013 movie called Big Ass Spider with our new hero Greg Grunberg, and shown how using those spells, and we'll get into these definitional terms and what they mean, using them with a fighting fantasy book and the fighting fantasy rules. We went through and talked about how we could generate a character that was kind of using this to kind of use this kind of loose conception of the kind of meta RPG as kind of um, like a metaphorical kind of uh, programmable meta matrix. Like we're in the matrix and we have the power to reprogram it. So we're leaving the confines of strict rules, and we're being more loosey goosey with it, and allowing our imaginations more leeway, understanding that the majority of us are going to end up expressing these things and doing these things in a solo role-playing game concept. If any of us, many of us are talking about, whether we're going to have to do this in a role playing game context at all. Um, we'll get into these things. Um, but we were talking about this and using these spells as substitutions or as adjuncts for the skill, stamina, and luck stats in a fighting fantasy game. And we talked about this, and we talked about the various implications of it, and we went on some tangents. We talked about Greg Grunberg. We talked about Big Ass Spider. We talked about various things, and we had a lot of fun. And it wasn't until the very end the final 13 minutes, in fact, that we hit this problem. Someone, Golden Coin 100, asked a very innocent question, and I had a reaction. I got upset. I got upset by the fact that someone who had been, I felt, a subscriber and known me for a long, long time, because the meta RPG, though it's a new concept that I'm introducing on this RPG channel, the underpinnings of it, the so-called secret space program, time travel technology that kind of influences it, that concept, that game, that kind of that idea, that LARP, that though the meta RPG isn't a LARP, because a LARP is a game that you end the real world and you enter this consensual kind of role-playing game space within the confines of the real world. The meta RPG is a game that you play where you gamify the universe. You don't change, you don't stop reality. You gamify reality, and you play the game while in the confines of the real world. For those that are loose enough to flow with the grok and go there, man, they will go. And for those that say, oh, it's that hippy dippy shit, exactly. It's that hippy dippy shit. So if you're not interested, we know, que pasa? You know what I mean? Namaste. You know what I mean? It is what it is. We can dig it. It's all good, Urbanski. You know what I mean? We can dig it. And so what had happened was that they had asked, basically, the meta RPG concept, as we've been playing it out here and playing with it, as kind of like different layers and levels, and where it started out was basically kind of, let's take it from, well, I guess we'll do it from here, and then if we do it from here, maybe we'll just end up recapitulating everything that happened, and in recapitulating everything that happened, maybe we'll achieve our goal of basically giving you the SSP TTT, the meta RPG content that was indeed lost when the last two vids went private. I basically told you what we did on the first vid that went private. We had taken these spells I previously told you about. You watch. Okay, here's how we'll do it. First, the earth cooled. Okay, Bugs Bunny, I don't mean take me back to that beginning. Take me back to the relevant beginning. Around the year 2000, a young Benjamin Zavodnik, later to be known as CW Chanter, then to be known as Cable Guy Incognito, then to be taken on various disguises and pseudonyms and guises, whatever, began to notice around him that, life, just everything seemed to be kind of a repetition of things that he had seen before. And it slowly started to dawn on him that, the 2000s, 2001 was really just looking like the 80s. And it became so much so the case that I started to take note of these things that I saw as just being pure recapitulations of the past. Not, oh my God, that totally reminds me of, or that isn't that a sweet homage to the looks of yesteryear, but just pure, dun, 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 dun. That's the theme from Knight Rider, sampled in that song. Oh, look at that guy in that movie, dressed just like, that. Or just noticing that this thing that was so successful just seems to be entirely predicated on being a love letter to the 80s, like The Wedding Singer by Adam Sandler. The Wedding Singer by Adam Sandler is like barely, it's kind of a movie, it's kind of a story, but really what it is just like almost just like a hop, skip, and a jump to a hop, skip, and a jump to a hop, skip, and a jump to, remember this from the 80s? Slow down, man. Where are you going? I got to get to the wedding. Okay, but just watch out. You almost knocked over my Rubik's Cube. Like, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, like, out of my ways, man. I'm trying to get to a plane. I'm trying to get to a plane too, man, but I gotta stop a wedding. Well, I'll help you, man. I'm Billy Idol from the 80s. The guy you told us, because for a minute there I thought you were, you know what I mean? I knew you were somebody, right? You know what I mean? Like, God bless you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and by the way, I lived through the 80s. The guy from Flock of Seagulls had Flock of Seagulls hair, right? No one, no cab drivers ever tried to do the Flock of Seagulls hair. No, there was no, no one ever had to ask, you know what I mean? And no one who ever did no one ever did Flock of Seagulls hair. And if you did Flock of Seagulls hair, you never asked anyone if they liked Flock of Seagulls. It was just the wedding, God bless it. But it was a hit. And why? The 20-year nostalgia loop. This was the central concept I ended up coming up with. It's the 20-year nostalgia loop. Everything that's going on is just a repeat of what was happening 20 years before. And I started to keep a notebook of these instances of this 20-year nostalgia loop. And I started to come up with the grand idea that I was going to write a book one day about this 20-year nostalgia loop. And it started to be a real thing that I was observing, and a real note that I was observing in my life. And I became crucially aware of how much I had experienced in my life that was just a raw recapitulation of it seemed like almost someone else's life. And I reflected on my adolescence and in my high school years in 1993, graduating high school and having these early psychedelic experiences and realizing, man, the music we were listening to and how many of my friends were like into the Grateful Dead and all this stuff. And I was like, if you were to tell me that my 1993 was 1973, it wasn't that far off. Bands like Monster Magnet or, bands like Run the Gamut. I mean, it was just, you could see that it was just, the nostalgia was just the name of the game. It wasn't just that nostalgia was the name of the game. It just seemed like this pure lock nostalgia seemed to be the name of the game. That it was like just dead on, that it was just 20 years dead on, that it was just this constant repeat. So anyway, I noted this and I kept this notebook for a while, but eventually like it just, the book never happened. Like most things in my life, it just didn't come together. What really came together was an increasing tendency to self-medicate with, alcohol and other substances and just take other things for granted and just kind of do nothing except just, live, subsist, and just kind of wait for death. It was a kind of a sad existence, but whatever. Things moved around, things changed for me, things started to improve in some areas of my life, though not all. In 2015, at the age of 40 years old, I started a YouTube channel to express, my religion, Commonwealth chanting, and doing different things. I started reaching out and making friends with other people, making contacts and connections, and things were looking up in my life. In certain areas, though, not all of my life was better. There was a lot of disease, a lot of disorder, and still a lot of addiction and alcoholism. The tail end of 2018, this notion of the 20-year nostalgia loop, for whatever reason, came back into my mind. We'd also been talking about this notion of the secret space program whistleblower school. I had been studying these people in my channel, CW Chanter, though it had started off being just about my religion, Commonwealth chanting, and supposed to be just about spirituality, religion, the New Age diaspora, as I called it, and all these different things. Through kind of an act of jealousy, being enraged by other people getting more attention than me, I started kind of analyzing and talking about, what I thought were kind of bullshitters in the conspiracy theory community and the New Age community and the Illuminati whistleblower community and what have you. And studying these guys, it was just easy to see, what the kind of the game plan was, what the storyline was. And so I developed this kind of secret space program, whistleblower school, which was basically like, if you want to be one of these people that comes on the internet and tells stories about being abducted by the aliens and the Illuminati and, turning against them and, knowing, exposing the cloning centers and all this stuff. I said, this is how you do it. I basically broke it down. So I had taken the secret space program whistleblower school and I married it to this idea of the 20-year nostalgia loop. And I came up with this idea of doing a time jump school where we were going to basically take, like, it was basically like, you ever see the movie with Christopher Reeves, Time After Time, where it's basically like mental entrainment, where you take something from the past, something you experienced in the past, and you use it to entrain your brain or to self-hypnotize yourself to bring you back to a moment in time. And so basically I came up with this like concept, like when like in 30 minutes. It was like, honestly, like, so, and it's just something you do. It's just like because here's the idea. And it was built upon that, and we found out that it kind of worked. For whatever reason. And I'm not saying I'm like some great genius, because like a lot of people have done this sort of thing before. I'm a little bit more loosey-goosey with my approach, which led to the confusion that led to the first, video, which led to the second video, which led to both videos having to be set to private. We'll get there. In theory, because the 20-year nostalgia loop is so prevalent. So in 2018, the argument is that 2018 is basically just a repeat and a rehash of 1998. So because 2018 is just a rehash and a repeat of 1998, it'll be super easy to time travel to get your brain to go back to 1998 and to see 1998 today. So what you would try to do is to get this effect to happen. And this was like not based on any sort of like scientific, like, even really like, it was just based on like, well, let's do this. Like, you would just listen to music from 1998. You would only listen to music from 1998. Right? It was specifically said that like you wouldn't get into fights with people about it. You won't go crazy. It wasn't like the spell would be broken if you heard something from another day. Like this is like the whole point. Like if you go to like magical schools and like, study like occultism, when they do these things like ritual craft or spellcraft or these things, like if one thing goes wrong, the whole operation is blown. We're like, I'm taking this like totally different approach to it, where it's basically kind of like spirituality and occultism and esoteric practice, but we're trying to make it like as easy peasy whatsoever. Like imagine the theory of like a doctor came up with a shot, like a syringe, like, oh man, I don't want a needle. No, man, this is a needle that you take over the course of 6 months. A needle over 6 months? Yeah. But you know how like a needle, like it hurts you because it's like a jab. Yeah, but imagine that, but over the course of 6 months. You feel nothing, because it's like that, but it's over, you know what I mean? It's like the notion of like that, like, but it's not like that for 6 months. It's like that, but over the course of 6 months. So it's like you feel like nothing. That would be the theory. All this is theoretical. It's basically saying like L. Ron Hubbard just made up shit, like Aleister Crowley just made up shit, like all these people, like Jesus Christ, like God, like everyone just makes up shit. I just made up some stuff. But the only difference was, well, no, not the only difference, because everyone says, a lot of people testify that other people's stuff works too. I think the dirty little secret is this: whatever you do is probably going to work. But anyway, here's how you do it. So you go to 1998 by only listening to music from 1998, right? And if you were going crazy, you couldn't listen to another goddamn track from 1998, even though 1998's got neoclassical music, it's got experimental jazz, it's got this, it's got traditional jazz, it's got all this hip hop, it's got everything. But you just can't take any more 1998. You got to listen to something else. We would say listen to something from before 1998, not after. And if you could, if you were around in 1998, you don't have to be. You can listen to go back to a year you haven't been or weren't even around for. But if you could, listen to something that you actually listened to in 1998 to actually bring you there. And you would repeat that process for every other type of media: movies, TV, books, art. If you have your druthers, if you're going to see some media, if you're going to voluntarily ingest some data, have it be from the year that you're trying to go to. And the theory is that if you did this for a period of like 2 weeks or more, that you will slowly see this kind of wavering of time, and that you will start to feel this kind of, either some people describe it as time dilation, some people describe it as, I described it as time travel, and then there'll be some like waffling about whether or not that's the correct language to use, whether it's time dilation, time travel, a time wavering, a time, all these things. However you say it, the end result was, I said, what we're looking for is some sort of affect. You're looking for some sort of feeling, some sort of experience. You're looking to do something that generates some sort of effect. And during this experiments in 2018, people were reporting experiencing things, positive and negative. To this day, people report having had experiences, positive and negative, as a result of participating in this time travel experience. And I continued with the time travel experiences, and I continued with the 20-year nostalgia loop observations. As I went forward through time, I noticed that in addition to the 20-year nostalgia loop, that a lot of other people had made observations about 25 and 30-year nostalgia loops, and those were valid as well. There was some war with me because, look, it's hard to describe things, whether to communicate things. If you're talking about multiple nostalgia loops, it's hard enough when it just had one thing that was kind of like a trademark thing, like 20-year nostalgia loop. When you started adding more in, it was, getting a little bit more quidgy-bow. But what are you going to do? Life is life. Moving forward, we get into this RPG, channel. We're jumping, way ahead, and I may be missing pieces, but I'm just trying to hit kind of like the bullet points, or just try and get as much as we can back. We got to the point where we started. I think what had happened was, then we got to here on this channel, and the concept of using this time travel technology that and this time jump experiment stuff came back, but it came back with this additional level of marrying it to this concept of gaming and role play and the RPG. And then that expanded out to this concept of it as a meta RPG, because it's not a LARP, because a live action role play, like I said, is a game where you take, Ridgefield Acre Square Park, and you say, we're now changing this to the magical land of Slam or whatever. You're taking the normative reality and you are role playing, you are changing your role, you're changing the world around you, and you are, redefining it in order to have this, finite experience that comes from a pre-existing realm of systems of rules, systems of interplay, and, established other game. Whereas, like I said, the meta RPG is you are not using an established set of other rules. The meta RPG, the only central rule is that you've gamified your space, and that, CWJ, and that it operates under this process of, the first you enter into this, how you enter into the space is through this consensual act of engaging in the time travel experience, with the community of fellow time travelers, with me, with CW Chanter, using this, playing this game of the, SSP, TTT, the meta RPG. And I even but then I kind of expanded out, like, that the SSP, TTT meta RPG is just like an aspect of the meta RPG. So it gets a little bit dicey. But the first step is, and you don't have to go all the way to creating characters and playing Fighting Fantasy or playing Dungeons and Dragons or playing any game. You don't have to play any role-playing game. The first thing to play, to experience this, is to say, okay, the first aspect of the meta RPG is to say, okay, CW's up to something. There's a game that he's saying, we're playing this the Secret Space Program time travel meta RPG, and he's telling us that there was the Secret Space Program, and that there's this time travel technology, and that it works, and that people have used it and it works. And if we try it, it might work too. But he's telling us it's based on freaky deaky shit. He's telling us it came from this wackadoo world of new age, occult, experimental weirdos. It's not from a game world. It didn't come from the land of, hi, I'm Gary Gygax, and I designed this is from, it's a game. It's imagination. The satanic panic is for freaky weirdos who misunderstand that this is just a game. No, CW is telling you it's not just a game. I'm explicitly telling you this is something else. I'm telling you it's not a LARP. It's not, I'm not trying to endeavor to sell it, on itch.io. I'm telling you that we're endeavoring to do something new, as hard and crazy and impossible as that may be, and as likely it is to hit upon 1,000 other points that other people have hit upon before. So anyway, so we come to the space and we say, okay, so we the first step is you voluntarily say, okay, well, I'll engage in this experiment of picking one of these nostalgia loop years, and we introduce for the first time in 2023 the notion of a 10-year nostalgia loop. The notion that before that it had just been a 20-year nostalgia loop, a 25-year nostalgia loop, a 30-year nostalgia loop, and a 40-year nostalgia loop, kind of based on, and then after that, it was all just kind of theoretically, vibrations, like a 25-year nostalgia loop on top of a 25-year nostalgia loop leads to a 50-year nostalgia loop. But that was kind of like getting out there into theoretical land. The major loops that we'd always been working with were 20 years, 25, and, kind of 30 and 40-year loops, kind of for the most part, but really kind of just mostly on the 20-year loop. For the first time in 2023, I introduced the concept of the 10-year loop and working a lot with me personally with 2013. It was nuts, and I was having great results with it. And I noticed that would be a great thing for beginners to do, because you can go back to 2013 standing on your head because it's almost identical to today. But that also goes to show you that life is changing. It's getting weird because it wasn't that way. If you went to 1983 and tried to experience just culture from 1973, it was as different as night and day. If you went to 1993 and just saw material from 1983 music, and it looked totally and sounded totally different. If you're in 2003 and listened to music from 1993, well, now things are starting to slow down. Things sound a lot more similar between 2003 and 1993 than they do between 1993 and 1983. When you get to 2013 to 2003, it's hard to argue that there was anything present on the sonic soundscape in 2013 that wasn't there in 2003. In 1997, you could say that there was stuff in 1997 that wasn't there in 1987. In 1987, they did not have jungle breaks, right? They didn't have drum and bass techno music in 1987. They didn't have GABA hardcore techno in 1987. They had noise music. They had extreme noise music and stuff. Well, they had extreme noise music in 1943, if you want to be completely honest about certain things. But, they didn't have jungle. They didn't have drum and bass. But by 2003, they pretty much damn near had everything that they have today. And so things get a little bit freakier or weirder, but let's not go too far afield. When we come to the RPG channel, we have this established notion of the nostalgia loops, and kind of, if you want to come and play the game, there's a kind of set of things that you kind of accept, or kind of things that you accept in order to kind of go, that if you have to kind of accept to go, they're kind of precedents, predicates, if you want, like the notion of the nostalgia loops, and the notion of using these nostalgia loops helps you travel back in time. The notion that more people that are traveling back in time, like engaged in this mental process, adds to the mental energy, the group energy and effort adds to it, that we're doing it together, and therefore that adds to the accumulated mental energy. And we all say, like, we're engaged in this process, but we're all saying that we're basically the whole point of the thing is to say we're engaged in, like, we're acting as though we're in a magical occult practice, including engaging in the occult practices, but we're kind of reserving the fact that if it works, it's accidental because we don't necessarily know what we're doing. But I will tell you this, it works. I can tell you it works. It does. I'm not bullshitting you. It just does. But whatever. Or maybe it works for some people. I mean, I can tell you it worked for me. And other people says that it works, but I guess mileage may vary. We came to this point where we had you have the going back in time through the engagement and kind of like the media overload. You have a given loop year that you're going for, so you only listen to music from that era, or before. You only read books from that era, or you only play games from that era, and you really try to do the best you can. You don't need to get into fights with your friends or family, but you do the best you can to stay there for as long as you can. If you got to take a break, you take a break, but then you come back and you try to do that, and you keep a journal. You do all the good things that a good occultist or a good explorer should do, like keeping a journal, keeping track of what's going on and seeing what's happening. We expanded past that level. That would be like the initial stages that we already knew from the secret space program, time travel, the secret space program, whistleblower school, time travel experiment. Going into this more gaming space, I introduced the notion that you could use the gaming materials, like the role-playing games that you had from the given years, like 1983, 1993, or 2003, 2013, and you could engage with these materials to make that part of the meta RPG. And I started introducing the concept of using these game systems to create, using their character creation systems to create time warriors, though I didn't do much except introducing the concept. I started, doing this meta RPG and creating this meta RPG by just kind of thinking of these ideas, writing them down, and then just kind of saying to you theoretically, well, we could also do this here and this here. And I would read the rules to you night by night as I was kind of coming up with them. And that's how we came up with the notion of the spellcraft, of saying, oh, when you're watching these movies, you see a trope, you write a trope down, and you can use these spells that you write down. You can write roll dice for the many dice that you want to generate a dice code based on the numbers of letters in the spell, or based on the dates of the date of the movie, or the date of the movie plus the date that you wrote the spell down. You come up with anything you want to generate a number attached to the spell. And then I went back and then said, oh, don't do that, maybe because you want to keep it more fluid, and then generate the number when you finally use the spell to do something with it. I said you could use these things for energy. You could use them in your own life, like gamifying the world. Like, if you have a spell like Revenge of the Nerds and someone's pissing you off in traffic, you could cast the spell on yourself, Revenge of the Nerds, to get your revenge. Maybe it's just a good vibe feeling, or a power of future intent that that it shall be that you will have your revenge. Or you're stuck in traffic and you have a spell called Escape Artist that you generated from Cube from 1998, and you use that. Will it work? Will it not work? It's you're just trying to gamify life. You're just trying to have more fun. I mean, that was really, there's no real agenda, though we talked about and we explored agendas and why we do the things we do. And what had happened was, I've touched upon this notion of the time travel technology and how it works. You go and you listen to music from a certain era, only kind of overdose on music from a certain era, from one of these nostalgia loop years, and that's how the time travel technology works. We had made that first video where we talked about creating the spells, and then you're using the spells to add them or use them as substitutions for the various the three central skills of a fighting fantasy character, and using that to make a proxy of like a kind of Greg Grugman's character from Big Ass Spider. I'm going say his last name a different time each time, in the hopes that I just kind of cover the Grubman spread. Should I just look up his name again? Should we just call him Greg G? What the fudge? Grunberg, I'm all over the place. Who's Grubman? The fuck? Meanwhile, there's some poor actor out there, Grubman, going, holy shit. Mom doesn't think anybody knows who I am. Mom doesn't know anyone knows who I am. No one knows who Greg Grubman is, huh? No one knows who Greg Grubman is, huh? This guy knows Greg Grunberg is. Meanwhile, Greg Grunberg's out there going, this guy's been calling me Greg Grubman for like the first 20, 30 minutes of it. Yesterday, I was his fucking hero. I was saving him from dad. Meanwhile, my love is like, you know what I mean? Yet tomorrow, you know what I mean? You're saving me from, first of all, no offense, Greg, you're saving me from my dad, yesterday. 3 days from now, Howard Stern is telling me it's going to be okay. Honestly, you know what I mean? I am, first of all, it's because I had no father figure, right? Well, my concept of a father figure is so fucking fluid, right? So fucking twisted, right? That I'm like, you know what I mean? Forget about it. People are like, mother figures, like, who's he hanging out with now? Jesus, that kid. Love him and leave him. It's how to prevent from getting hurt. Oh, Matt Parkman, yeah. No, I'm hanging out with the Japanese dude now. Not even the time traveler, the buddy. It's like a 2008 reference. Okay, so so we did that. So he made Golden Coin 100 at the end of the epic first video that had to go private. Basically asked a very innocent question regarding how could a person who was less than 20 years old do this if they were less than 20 years old. Sorry, I didn't mean to be like that bitchy about it, but sorry. I'm sorry, but I apologize. That's gonna get me in trouble. Hold on. So that was like the ex-wife wife. So I gave her she was like, have you decided what you'll do yet? And I wrote back to her, how about checking if I'm streaming? Like before you interrupt me. And then I was like, well, look, I'm gonna fuck dead man. So I fucking muted you guys. I was called right back, like, hey, just letting you know. Muted the stream to let you know, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, bah. She was like, oh, you yeah, damn right then. And I was like, oh, you want me? And she's like, well, I'm used to this shit. It was a fucking bitch. Baba. No, me being like bitchy about the fucking sending like a chump text, but whatever. So, anywho, so we did that. So he asked Golden Coin 100 asked a very innocent question, and there's been the Golden Coin 100 has also let us know that there was a hijacking of their computer console, and that the question was not actually issued by them, according to them. I have no reason to doubt their veracity of their statements. That it was an innocent question, even if their roommate had asked. I mean, if their roommate had asked, I'm sure their roommate was just there, looking at the screen, being like, "What the hell are you talking about?" It was simply, how could someone less than 20 years old? And it's you do not have to. There are other mental entrainment methods, self-hypnosis methods, about returning to an earlier period of time, either for the purposes of what they call lucid dreaming, or recovery, a memory recovery or something, where actually utilize things like pieces of music or art, or things that you had actually experienced before, to evoke specifically a given period of time in your life. This is similar but not exact. The theory is that because even a movie that you haven't seen, even a piece of music that you haven't seen from a given year, even if it's a year that you haven't been to, because it will have commonalities with things that you have experienced from that time, it'll bring we're playing a game. Don't worry about it. Someone less that not from the time can go to the time in our system. So that's it. So there's the system, there's the going back in time. So, and then there's the actual controversy regarding the first video that went to private. What ended up happening was, the way I ended the video was by saying F you to the audience, which I found unacceptable. And I found it unacceptable to simply just take the last 13 minutes off, because that seemed like a cover up. It seemed like losing my cool and going crazy on the audience and saying F you at the end, and then just cutting it off like nothing ever happened, was falsifying the evidence and falsifying the record, being inauthentic. And I thought the better thing to do was, instead of kind of creating that inauthentic record, was to the next day say, okay, let me clarify it. Let me say, hey, there was this question. It was a perfectly innocent question. I could have handled it easily by just answering the question, but instead it triggered this response to me. I had this very negative response. I had this very negative, reaction to it. And I talked about, why I felt the way that I did about the question, how it triggered me, how I felt like, I was doomed to failure, because if I couldn't communicate this fundamental point to someone after so long, who had known me for so long, then I felt like, I was catastrophizing. It was just my brain doesn't always put together the world the way it should. But when my brain doesn't put together the world that it should, it's not that it puts together the world in an unconvincing way to me. It puts together the world the way it does. And to me, it looks like the world. It looks like, holy shit, like everything's fucked. We're doomed. We're screwed. It sucks. Your kids are better off without you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's telling me it looks that way. Like, that's just the way the world looks. And it's just not telling me that I'm wrong. It's telling me that I'm right. You know what I mean? About it being that bad, and about it being like, it's not telling me that I'm being, negative about it. It's not telling me that I'm being like it's just a matter, it's just telling me that, like, I'm looking at it from all angles, and all angles are, you're screwed, and I have to train myself to, like, count, to take, and it took a minute, but the next day I thought that I had processed it, and I thought that I had come to this point where I had digested what had happened with the question, and I was prepared to not only address what had happened with the question, but answer the question. And there was then this addendum as the day progressed, and I was preparing to make the video wherein I would respond and say, here was the question, I responded badly, here's me trying to handle it better. And then also trying to say, this new idea developed where I started to talk about, or wanting to talk about, um, intent and motivation. And that came from a gnosis that was born from working with the misunderstanding I had with the questioner, and a gnosis that happened with working with, probing, why I had gotten so upset about, misunderstanding or communications, or what I was trying to do. And it also came with working with this notion of the meta RPG, or playing the SSP TTT Secret Space Program Time Travel Technology Meta RPG as a magical practice. And what you are doing when you engage in a magical practice of trying to make change happen in accordance with one's will, what does that really mean? And talking about that, and I said, one kind of like analogy you could, I think analogy is the right way to describe it, for coming into contact with your holy guardian angel or discovering what one's true will is like handling your shit. So when I was trying to talk about what doing this game would be, I talked about, going to the center of the labyrinth, or what we were trying to do. And I was very honest, and I talked about, um, hey, really talking about peeling back the layers and understanding that as a 47-year-old guy, heavily putting his attention on role playing game books that I first experienced when I was, 10, 11, or 12 years old, when I was also being, really, really abused. You know what I mean? That, that was there, and um, that I had some insight in regards to that. And so I talked about that, and that had to do with the second video, and I talked about that, and I think I talked about that very honestly, and there were tears, and I talked about childhood trauma, and I talked about, um, not, really in any sort of detail, but I definitely, talked. And it's not that I took the video down because, I'm embarrassed, because there's nothing to be embarrassed about. And it's not because, it's just, I'm very happy that I did the video, because I felt as though, like, you talk about this as a magical working, or magic, or these sort of things as a process. It was a process of making both those videos, discovering the problem at the end of the first video, and having to address it, and then having to address it, and then having that emotional stuff come up, was very cleansing, very cathartic, and very focusing. Today in the office was a very different day for me than the day before. Um, and at the end of the video that I made, where I cried, I shed tears, and I talked about abuse, I was also able to have some clarity and to talk to you about, what I felt was kind of, my consumer habits run amok, and I'll be honest, as a guy, my life, and, like, the kind of the stories of my life are kind of, a lot of have to do with, there are a lot of feelings of, shame and inadequacy. So, talking about and feeling like, in a world full of tough guys, I'm a soft guy. And so having my issues be like things like issues like addiction, um, you know what I mean? I'm not a, I'm not I don't get in trouble for, getting, hurting people. I get in trouble for using, getting drunk, or like even like compulsive shopping, like that's like I consider that, or I've been like kind of socialized to think of that as like supposed to be like a woman's problem. Like even that, like I would have like what would be associated with what I think would be associated with, like a woman's issue. But that's like, like that's like stuff that's like a hang up, and that's like not true. It's just like not true. But those, those moments of clarity, like I think that they're worth talking about, they're worth having. But the particular way that I go about things, like I had a friend in college who said, dude, you were born without a filter. And I really was. And that can be really, really great sometimes. But sometimes, oh man, it can be a real problem. And and I was happy that the video happened, and I was happy that I got what I got out, and I was happy that I processed what I processed. And I know that, it was out for X amount of hours, so it's kind of out, but all my shit's been out there before, so I'm not really, I don't live my life in shame, so I'm not really that caring about it. But I felt like it was like very intense, and I felt like it's just better to be just like, we'll take them all again. We'll put those videos on private, and we'll say, hey, we put those videos on private. We'll come back. We'll do this. Maybe not all of the content is preserved, but enough of it is, hopefully, and hopefully we get to come back and get more. So I'm 50 minutes here. So what I'm going to do is, rather than try to, get any more stuff that I may have had in the earlier videos and I was going to show you also today that I think that we can take what I think is this, is that what I was going to show you is that, in the fighting fantasy books, the three guys, there's three stats of skill, stamina, and luck. There's also these other fighting game books called Golden Dragon game books that have a slightly different system, but they have the vigor, which is their version of health, is exactly the same, but they do combat different. So they have two different stats that they do different, but they do their vigor, they do their stamina almost exactly the same way. So what I was thinking was this: just like we had our kind of our ersatz Matt Parkman character have these special abilities based on these spells that we took from Big Ass Spider. I was going to say that we could expand that out, and you could say like we were going to work on a system whereby you could take these game book characters and maybe like we can figure out like their stamina might be like their main stat that is like always sticks with them. But what I'm going to show you next time is I think I'm going to repeat, or we're going to try and reiterate the kind of the process whereby you take the spells and use them for the game book characters, and then we're going to show you how like basically you can basically take the characters and put them into different books. If you just kind of basically like, you always want your character to have something, right? You don't want your character to ever go down to just the name. But if you keep your character's stamina on his character sheet, you could erase the other two stats, you know what I mean? The other two things, and then just give him new abilities and put him into a different world. Just act like you're transporting him there. And just act like his stamina is like his vigor is like his body or her body. And then just act like those other two stats are like the avatar program that you put them in. So it's like if in the role playing game you think of yourself as like you're playing the game, so you in the different, like I'm playing GURPS, so I've got various characters in GURPS. So I rolled up a character in GURPS, and he or she has got these abilities. But what if you were to say you were to roll up a character and say this character can play various characters? You know what I'm saying? Like they could have various different abilities based on changing them around, and not just about like, I'm going to take this name and put it on a different character. It's like not just the name. It's like that person, but you put them around. But it's all about like narrative for me. It's all about like not having the connection be the game system or the rules or anything external to your imagination. I want you to prioritize your imagination and the you doing rather than the game doing. That's what I'm basically it. That's kind of it. And it's kind of like it's kind of loosey-goosey. Kind of loosey-goosey. Anyway, let me go to we got 53 minutes, 34 seconds. I'll hang out for a little bit. Let me just say hi to the live chat. We'll say hi to, I'll shoot through the hellos, and I'll get to the end. I'll get to the end, and I'll say you'll put your comments and questions at the end if you got any. We said Golden Coin, Tolkien, Jonaside, Mario Heat, Spooky, AJ Cap showing up, David Bucky, Jed Petty. All right, Tim Frey. Okay, good show. Here's go, AJ Cap. I remember 1998 pretty damn well. That was 25 years ago. I just graduated high school and started listening to electric music for the first time. It was a great summer. There you go. R.I.P. Twitter. Tim Frey's not the, yeah, everything is, Twitter's down. Dragula. Now remember, 1998, was it 1998? Was it 1978? Right? 20-year nostalgia loop will bring you back to 1978. Right? A 25-year nostalgia loop would bring you back to 1973, right? Off of that. And a 30-year nostalgia loop off of 1998 brings you to 1968, right? Now, remember, if you look at those 20-year and 25 and 30-year nostalgia loops, you'll realize that there's a huge chunk of time where a whole chunk of time is referring back to one era. So the 1960s and 1970s hangover lasts not just 10 years, it lasts 20 years. And think how long the 80s have been sticking around, right? And then when you get to today, where you have 2023 looking back 10 years on 2013, or looking back 20 years on 2003, but 2003 was looking back 20 years on 1983. But I can tell you already by the 80s, retro was king. In 1983 was inundated with the 60s and the 50s. Na 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 sha na na were already on TV in 1983. Oh, you better believe in 1983 on Silver Spoons we're already having those 1950 sock hops. Remember the 1980 by 1986 and 87 we were already being shown things like Dirty Dancing and stuff. You know, it's incredible. David Bucky in 98, I was just getting into new metal from like pop punk. There you go. Hey, listen, better late than never. And some rave and industrial stuff too. I love that. I love the David Bucky trying to come back in for the redemption, and also some industrial and rave. Sure, sure. My first rave I ever been to was in '98. There you go. Those were the days. Here you go. Jet Petty, the only song I like of Madonna, Frozen from 1998. And remember, folks, Frozen turns 10 years old, I believe, either this year or next year. Frozen came out in 2013. Let It Go is going to be a decade old, either this year or next year. And remember, the Mandela effect was born 10 years ago. It was in 2013 that Nelson Mandela passed away, giving birth to the Mandela effect, which of course is just people who are uninformed, because you couldn't think that Mandela had actually died in whatever year that people constantly say that Mandela died, unless you never went to the movies, didn't watch TV, didn't pay attention to the news. Because up until the time that he died, President Nelson Mandela was the president of fucking South Africa. He was on the news, he was at the UN, he was all over the place. All of these people, you ever notice that well, they call it the Mandela effect, but they probably do so with a little bit of shame. Black people don't have a tendency to talk about the Mandela effect. You know why? They knew Nelson Mandela was alive because it was a big deal for them. Because he was the president of South Africa after having suffered for years and decades in South African prison, right? White people had a tendency to think, Nelson Mandela, I thought he died. Well, that's because you ignorant asshole, you're thinking of Stephen Biko. You're thinking of Stephen Biko because they made a movie about him, and Peter Gabriel sang that song, Biko. Because Biko. It was a big deal. He sang it, I think he sang it at Live Aid, and he's made a whole big speech about it. That's why these fucking ignoramuses think that Nelson Mandela died, because another white guy, Peter Gabriel, the king of like one of the kings of like whatever happened to Johnny Clegg. And remember Johnny Clegg, the apparently the whitest guy that was like the biggest star of Africa, apparently, according to white people who were telling you that he was big in Africa. I have no idea. Anywho, Nelson Mandela, I thought he died. Yeah? What else do you think? I swear to God. Anyway, the Mandela effect is 10 years old in 2013. And I introduced the 10-year nostalgia loop just in time. Also, tomorrow, the 9th, is the next episode of The Simpsons. Yes, here's go. Bree. Exactly. I would imagine if you concentrated on a particular year for a while, you may be able to travel imaginatively through your dreams and maybe experience deja vu. Yes, you are correct. Absolutely. Yes, here's Golden Coin 100. Simply by focusing on a certain year, won't that also help to plant the seed of the year to which you are currently in to generate and manifest the nostalgia and the meta? Absolutely. And the whole, yes, just by all of us just bullshit, even the fight that we had, Golden, even the disagreement, That becomes part of the lore. CW having a problem having to set the videos to private. That whole people that saw that didn't see that. That whole everything becomes part of it, right? The whole thing is this. It's all about, and we say hello to the elephant in the room, and we say hello to Jilly Beans too. Oh shit. I say hello to July Beans. Is there a July Beans? Inside joke, inside joke. July Beans. I got your book. Now it's going to take me 10,000 years to mail it to you. That's all that we got to wait for. There you go. There you go. What vids? Oh, well, I don't know. It depends. The New Year's, I had some New Year's resolutions. I got to get better on them. The New Year's resolutions, my New Year's resolutions for 2022, I kept like a charm. My New Year's resolutions for 2023, I'm not going to share with you because I didn't keep them like a charm. They had to do, and I'm not going to keep. I'm not going to share with them because they're very much more specific and they're budgetary. But we're going to get back there. We just because I didn't hit it 100%, meaning that uh, I'm not going to be getting the same performance record as last year on my New Year's resolution, doesn't mean that I can't bring myself into rain. And in fact, if if things go the way that I want them to, then whatever deficit I have generated as far as not meeting my budgetary restrictions so far will, and I haven't gone like crazy. I mean, don't worry about it. That's not the important part. Will be made up for or can be made up for. Not that that's the issue or that's the point. The point is self improvement and being honest and taking care of things before they become an issue. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm doing. So we're good. Mario Heat correcting me. Hey, it is what it is. Mandela was in office until 1999. After that, he was just a diplomat symbol, but he was there. At the UN, symbolically, wherever the fuck, he was there. But if I made a misstatement, I made a misstatement. You better check Mario Heat. Let's not go with Mario Heat. I never even thought Mandela died until he really died. I'd like to thank my heavy hip hop influence. Absolutely. We say hello to Renee Miss Jonaside. We say a respectable hello to Renee Miss Jonaside. CW, will you be in Kevin Moore's show again? I haven't. The last time I had contact with Kevin Moore, I got a Twitter DM that was apparently some sort of like mass, like, you know, um, you know, join the Psychic Friends Network. And that's not me trying to be insulting. It was just some sort of like mass thing. I I I have I I have no problem with being on Kevin Moore's show. I go where I'm invited. Do you know what I mean? And I just say to people, invite me more places. Rob Gauthier had me on. I'm sure that generated dozens of views for the man. And there's that. So I continue to be here. I continue to game, want to game, desire to game, and I'm gaming. I will end on this. One of the things that I did on the last video, yesterday's video, that I ended on when I talked about kind of consumer overspending and some of the issues that I was running into, is that I disclosed that it was my intention to take the Amazon app off of my phone, and that I was going to do so once the 22 books that I had ordered came in. And Some of them did, but I wanted to show you, like, kind of like as they come in. I thought I would like kind of like, show you and kind of show you kind of like how things developed and kind of like how I knew that I was having a problem. But I wanted to show you something that I thought kind of worked out kind of cool. And look, when we talk about these things like numerology and stuff, we'll get a card too. We got to do a card. Oh, wow. It's the 1 year anniversary of losing Jiggy. Wow. Incredible. Wow. 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 So so we do this thing with the nostalgia loops in 2003 and 2013 and 1998, 1993. And I say to myself, I go, oh, I got to look around and I got to gather up all the books, that are pertinent for these years for my house. And I find that I've got tons. But, I'm into, I talked about this on yesterday's show, in my life, in my household, I said there was only money and pain growing up. And the toys, the books, the video games, the Nintendos, that was the shut up. And that was also the what was supposed to make it okay. So, and it's the first, self-medication. So my father died in 2019. I guess he died, I can't remember what year, but he died like 2 years ago. And after a period of a lot of financial unease because of the divorce and all these things, all of a sudden I had a lot of money, and I reacted oddly to it. And there was, first I bought all those action figures, and then I started buying all these role-playing games. And it didn't take me long, and there was like part of like doing this gaming slash magical practice to realize, like, holy shit, I'm like, there's obviously, you don't need to be Freud to know that I'm doing something with recapitulating my youth here or something. But it got to a point where I started looking and saying, oh my God, like, we're getting to the point where it's like we've purchased everything from 2003 or 2013 or 1998 or 1993, because I'm seeing books come in, and two things are becoming obvious to me. Number one, it's like I don't just buy one book. I buy like 8 books at a time, 9 books at a time. I don't just like buy the main Exalted core rulebook to find out if I like Exalted. I buy the Exalted core rulebook. I buy, well, the Dragon Blooded used book is just $15, so I might as well buy that. And then I buy, I might as well buy, oh, well, this has got a great cover and it's from 2008 and I'll need that. So I buy the Player's Guide, and then, oh, well, this looks good. And so I buy, 15 books, and, but it's 10% off and they're, on sale and it's used. So it's only this. But if you buy, 15 used books, yeah, they're individually, they're not that expensive. But if you buy 15 of them, you look at that cart and you're like, holy shit, and then you say to yourself, well, that's irresponsible, and I could really just buy them one at a time. But then you start saying, oh, but it's a used book, so it's not, there's only one left. Oh, it's only one left. You buy now, only one left. And then I say to myself, I go, well, holy shit. I said, things are coming in from 2004, and it's February, right? And I'm saying to myself, hold on. Are you buying role-playing game books for next year's nostalgia loop in February of this year? I don't know if you can run out of money buying role-playing game books, but you might very well run out of, you may, probably, and you can certainly run out of space. And you can certainly be buying used books that could probably be bought by someone else who could, you know what I mean? Actually read it this year, because Lord knows you can. And when you're buying books like that, when you've got books that you know that you haven't read and you know that you're feeling already that you've got too many books and you're buying more books 5 at a clip, you know you have that there's some sort of compulsion going on. You know that there's something else going on. And the only thing to do is to say, stop. You know, for you tell people, you know what I mean? Like you tell people, you say, I'm doing this. I'm engaged in this wackadoo behavior. You know what I mean? Like it's not that I ran out of money. It's not that I'm running out of money. It's not that I'm scared of running out of money. It's just that I know that this is not healthy. I'll look like a hoarder. You know what I mean? It's not fair to the other other role players in the world because I'm picking up value purchases that could probably be purchased by other people for that. Maybe who knows? I mean, I don't know, but you know what I mean? It's not it's negatively affecting my self-esteem, and stopping at this point and doing something else in regards to it will positively affect my self-esteem. So that's what we're trying to do. So thank you for hearing me out. And it's kind of embarrassing to tell those things, but I know that hearing other people tell those sort of things and truths about themselves sometimes has made me feel kind of like it makes you feel like less of like an ultra douche about it. Um, Here's Phaedrus Live. Well, I know you're right. I also can't help but acquire books whenever they interest me. They are certainly worst pits to throw your money into. I agree. And what also would get me is that you got these OSR guys and these print on demand things that would happen that would be like people were like Chris Gonnerman is selling like basically like Dungeons and Dragons books for $5.95. He's selling the hard copies for like $20. Do you know what I mean? And you have guys that are like selling their the friggin' the micro RPG stuff. Like, yeah, I bought like basically Noah Patterson's fucking entire catalog, but like the whole thing probably cost me $1,000. But like it's like you know what I mean? It's like a bookshelf. I mean, granted, like 99.9% of the same material printed over and over again. But if I wanted to teach, if a small Vietnamese school wanted to learn how to play micro chatbook RPG, I think I got them covered. Could be worse. You could be buying salad books. And the funny thing is that why I talk about this is that like there are plenty of other people that are that are in similar states of affairs, buying books, collecting books, buying more books than you read. Annis Nin, I've talked about this quote. I probably say this quote like at least once a month, if not 3 times a month. Annis Nin. People confuse the purchasing of books with the purchasing of the time to read them. Absolutely. And that was so kind of what's so funny about some of this OGL SRD, third party publisher stuff that was going on with this Dungeons and Dragons community. Because all these people are like, we gotta publish this, we gotta publish that. I'm like, you're all like your own fantasy land. It's the same thing with the vaporwave kids on Bandcamp. You're all under I get it. I understand completely. No one. It's not that people don't want to play your stuff. Everybody wants to play everybody's stuff. Nobody has the time. Nobody has the time. Right? Look. The Academy of Mistahog is basically Noah Patterson's micro chapbook RPG Midnight Series version of Hogwarts, right? It's the micro chapbook RPG with special skills and special different things to make it basically kind of like Harry Potter. And it has a special series of rules that make it that give it its own kind of story arc and give it its own kind of thing, and its own kind of flow. Let me show you something here. Get here, like introduction. Okay. Uh, and it's got a specific. The Midnight Magic Club is a club almost as old as the Academy itself. It's got specific like semesters, and so like it's got this like kind of like point to it where it's like you could play this game over and over again. Like, yeah, it's the micro chapbook RPG system, but you know, any instance of the micro chapbook RPG is really kind of a game unto itself. So this game itself wants to be played not once, not twice. So it's like Final Fantasy VII. You know, takes like you're supposed to like it's supposed to take like 100 hours to finish that game. And a lot of our JRPG, like computer games, are like that. Hundreds of hours to finish them. You don't finish Dungeons and Dragons. You never finish first edition Dungeons and Dragons. And yet, people buy and make additional supplemental materials for first edition Dungeons and Dragons, though by definition, the materials that are already there are by definition infinite. And people have made similar materials for second edition, third edition, and the many other high fantasy role-playing games that are out there. And when are we going to face the fact that the number of people that are playing these actual traditional pen and paper role-playing games are dying off? And yet people are still, everyone's endeavoring to write their 5e compatible or their 3 or their orc compatible adventure. And people buy more adventures, and then they write their own adventures, and I know that people are saying that I'm not, you know, but even if a gaming club is getting together once a week, I mean, I'm telling you, I don't know how people are thinking that this is where this is like is what it is. And I'm not saying like, so stop writing role-playing game adventures because you're wasting your fucking time and you're all doomed to failure. But I'm just saying, like, Noah Patterson, like I'm doing this thing now. I'm like doing this meta RPG thing, this trip out. But before I was doing these like reviews of the micro RPG stuff, but I was like, Samus, at one point I was like at one like it's 2023 and Noah Patterson has been making micro RPG for 3 years. So that every instance of micro RPG that Noah Patterson has made, and like these are fairly sophisticated things, and they're all, because they're all interchangeable, that any two of these potentially infinite universes, like if you think of the theoretical combinations between this game and this game, right? Holy fucking shit. And then if we add like a third thing into it, good night, Irene. Right? Because I can have this character go from this world to this world and then study magic in this world and use these spells over here and then go over somewhere else. And then I'm going to buy another book and another book and another book, and they're all going to do, right? And what am I really doing? Because I'm going to say to myself, oh man, I'm going on this business trip. So I pack I make my YouTube video of, oh man, it's going to be a backpack full of dungeon. I'm going to put this book in it and this book into it and this book into it. And I'm just going to, only the essentials. And I just bought this and a tight little unit. Great. And the hottest time that you had, the hottest solo role play that you probably had that weekend, honestly, was making the choices of what you were going to put together in your magic little solo RPG to go backpack. Because the reality is you're going to go on that business meeting that you're going to whip out the Fighting Fantasy game book on the fucking flight. Yeah, for a little while, you know what I mean? But then you can scratch your ass, you can your iPhone, you watch fucking Iron Man. What are you thinking you do? And then you're gonna get to the hotel and you'll be whatever, and it's gonna be late, and you do whatever, and I mean, I know these people act like, oh, and I got there. These people act like they're like, I don't know what these fucking people do, because they act like they hit the hotel room and they like basically set up their fucking map and they like brew their little cup of coffee, and then that's what they're doing. They like, this geek gamers gal, I guess, like she's got kids, but apparently like all she does is like go to work, kiss her husband hello, and then just like game, because whenever she comes back, she's like, oh man, I was doing this and this, that. I don't know what the hell, but God bless her. God bless her. So anyway, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I love you. And get one last crack. One last crack. Woo-wee. Talk about nostalgia loops. Woo-wee. Oh, man. It feels like a couple of years ago. Oh, whoa. Jeez. My God. Hey. Oh, man. Remember this one? Oh, we're going to be living in 5D. Oh, yes, Chili Beans. We're going to be living in 5D. And people have got a choice to make. And they're going to be on the positive timeline, or are they going to choose the negative timeline? If they go on the positive timeline, oh, man, they're going to ascend. Oh, man, you want to ascend. You don't want to go on that negative timeline. If you go on that negative timeline, you're going to have to come back here and do a whole bunch of, oh man, you got to live another 1,000 years of this negative thing. And I basically pointed out 3 or 4 years ago that was just exactly the whole Christian rapture thing 3 years ago. A whole bunch of people stopped talking about that stuff. That whole 5D ascension, we're going to go a positive timeline. Alfred Lamont Weber stopped talking about this positive timelines or whatever. The reason I bring that up is because just last night, right? Same old, same old. The timelines. People are going to choose their timelines. Go on this timeline or that timeline. Oh, man. Oh, baby. Really? Okay. God bless you. You cannot keep a good girl down. She has come up before and she's come up again. Little wolf girl, it's all right to be alone. 18. 18. Yo. This that I did not know in enough detail the synchronicity from the journal this morning, but there was something to do with the numbers, and I noted about turning 18 in 1993 because the numbers were all pointing me towards 1993 for a year to concentrate on this year. So I go around, like, I know you guys, you're newbie time travelers, some of you, most of you know the experience of good old CW crazy time traveler guy. But so but I concentrate, I try to cover the spread, because also I want you guys to be able to find me in the timelines. You know what I mean? That's like, part of the mythology is that, I'm out there for you if you need to find me. Little wolf girl, it's all right to be alone. 18. This brings me back to my goth adolescence too. Let's go there. So if yesterday I had some pain and suffering and I had to deal with some of that, if today I'm coming back and saying I put those 2 videos to private, and there was a little bit of consternation there because you lose some progress. We had some good stuff in those videos, but it was for the best, I felt, because I always said, and I said, oh, it really stinks to be me sometimes, because it always seems to be that I'll have this long video and 90% of it will be great, and then there'll just be this one screw up that'll be a problem, that'll make me feel like I have to take the whole thing down, because I don't have like the wherewithal to just edit out that part or whatever to do something with there. Well, number one, you could always learn how to edit. There's that. And then number two, okay, so what? I oftentimes get beset by anxiety and fear that I'm not moving fast enough, that if I don't go fast enough, that something bad's gonna happen. I gotta get this meta RPG out. If I don't get this meta RPG out, this is gonna happen. Someone's gonna take this idea is gonna go this way. I gotta do this way. If I don't do this, something bad's gonna happen, or it's gonna go to shit, or I'm gonna drift, or I'm gonna forget about it, or someone's gonna forget about me, or I gotta do this, or I gotta strike when the iron's hot, or people are talking about tabletop role-playing games now finally because of the OGL SRD thing. I gotta do something now. I gotta do something now. I gotta do something now. You didn't make a video today, but everyone's talking about the OGL SRD. Oh, you screwed up the opportunity. And it just creates this negative feeling, this negative energy and vibe that affects the whole operation, the whole life. I want to have more patience with the whole thing, the whole unfolding. And I don't want to react to my fears. I want to react to the reality of what's going on. I've had to realize that so many of my experiences in life weren't really experiences of life at all. They were just experiences of my fears about life. But for so many years of my life that there were times when I was not experiencing the freedom and joy that was around me because I just wasn't aware of it. I was just so scared. And I also see and I'm reminded that, there's a lot of this that I'm going through and I'm experiencing. And I got to tell you something, like today was a very, very powerful day because whatever happened through this whole process, whether I was able to successfully communicate to you how it's done, how I did it, how it works, or how it might possibly work for you, if it will work for you, it works for me. And this notion of it's all right to be alone is this notion, I think, for me, of if this SSPTTT meta RPG, if the secret space program, tabletop, the time travel technology, RPG, meta RPG thing is a practice of getting clear, of trying to gain clarity, of trying to be free, of trying to gain some gnosis, and we feel as though we're getting there, then we're just going to allow that, and if it happens for others or if other people can observe that, that's great, but to allow for the fact that maybe there's some of it that is just allowable to happen for me, to not lose sight of the fact that while this is happening, if there's something amazing that's going to happen for me, to allow it to happen for me, even if it doesn't necessarily turn into a communicatable, docile, understandable idea that works for you guys. If I get some sort of gnosis or understanding about Lisa Marie Presley or William S. Burroughs, it doesn't matter if you get it necessarily, right? Yo, and I've gotten this card before. I just broke the deck and was just like this, and I got Once Upon a Midnight Dreary, creativity, genius, writing, expression, artistic flow. We've gotten that one before. That's insanity. So we're on the flow. We're on the march. We're doing good things. And I wanted to see one more thing. Because we talked about. I just wanted to see one more thing. Okay, let me just one more thing. Okay, because we made a big deal about this. So his birthday is July 11th, 1966. Gregory Philip Grunberg. Okay. Now, the reason I made a big deal about this is because I'm all into this. I'm all into like eights, twos, fours, eights, 11s, 22s, right? And so and we've been really into, other people have been really into sevens. So the 11, the 66 really jumped out. But here's the thing. I was born August 22nd, 1975. So when I didn't think of the date at first, but then I was like, that seems very, because he's July 11th and I'm August 22nd. And he's 66 and I'm 75. Now, granted, I'm not 77. That would be wicked cool. But I am 70. But so it's like he goes like I go. So he go. So I go. He goes. He's July. I'm August. So I go up. He's 11. I'm 22. So I go up again. And he's 66 and I'm 75. So I go up one on the 6 and then down one on the 5. It's weird. But then I thought, let's subtract. Can you subtract? Can you figure out how many days between a date and a date? Like date calculators. I know there are these things. Date calculator, add or subtract from a date. So I can month. I'm going to start date is I'm going to subtract his birthday from mine. Like to figure out how many days are between August August 22nd, 1975. Oh no, wait. I want to I want to figure out oh, here we go. Duration between two dates. Okay, here we go. Start date. Maybe I should do his between him and me. So he's 7, 11, 1966. And I'm August 22nd, 1975. I hope we get something good. Come on, no whammies. No whammies. I'm gonna pull a card to see. I'm gonna pull a card. I'm gonna pull a card to see on prediction. Oh man, nobody. If anyone's in the live chat, nobody do the date before I do the date. Hold on. Come on, good card. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Beauty and the Beast. I got Beauty and the Beast. You need some space in a relationship. 8. That's 8. That's infinity. So this might be telling me, hey, buddy, come on now. Leave Greg alone. This is getting crazy. Don't be a psycho. No. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Let's see what happens. So here we go. We got the 8 dates. We got the calculate duration. Oh, here we go. What do we got? 3,329 days. Well, that's a 33, or 9 years, 1 month, and 11 days. 9 years, 1 month, and 11 days. That's pretty cool. 9 years, 1 month, and 11 days? That's pretty exact. 9 years, 1 month, and 11 days? Or 109 months and 11 days? Or I was like 3,329 days. What do you think about that? What do you think about 9 years, 1 month, and 11 days? I think that's weird. 475 weeks and 4 days. 79,896 hours. 4,793, 760 minutes. 2,800 that I don't know. Anything? 9/11? Pretty cool. I think there's hey, I knew that there was going to be not nothing. Beauty and the Beast, you need some space in a relationship, 8. And we got 9 years, 1 month, and 11 days. Interesting. Or 109 months and 11 days. Goes to show you never can tell. I graduated from an East Coast high school in 1993. He graduated from a Los Angeles high school in 1984. That's 9 years, right? Because 83 to 93 would be 10 years. So 84 to 93 is 9 years. And meanwhile, he's like, just read the card. I need some space. Okay. J.J. Abrams never has to deal. First of all, Greg Grunberg, you listen. Big Ass Spider was 10 years ago. Okay. He's like, I was in Star Wars. You were the worst Star Wars ever, baby. Okay. Y'all dropped the ball on that one. Everyone's dropped. How do you fuck up your opportunity to do Star Wars? I mean, when you hear people say things like, we didn't have a master plan, or when we were working on this one, we didn't know exactly where we were going. Well, then why didn't you stop? I mean, that's what I say to myself. Hey, guys, maybe we should just like pause for a minute, figure out, what we're going to do, and then proceed. Oh, but the money men. I'm like, what were they thinking? Why didn't they stop themselves and say, why don't we not do this? But then again, that's, you know what I mean? I'm the guy crying about, my childhood trauma rather than, making money. So anyway, I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, somebody just did. That person's Greg Grunberg. Snap Wexley. No. You don't want to snap Wexley. You want to ease him into the cockpit. You snap him, it's going to be terrible. Cobbler. Tomorrow is the 9th. It's the next episode of The Simpsons. It's going to be the 4th one we watch together. Lord knows how I'll freak out about this one. The great thing is that I found out the dirty little secret, folks, is that if you want to keep your information confidential, if you want to keep your deep, dark childhood trauma, absolutely under wraps and private, there's a couple of different ways you could do it. You could either keep it like double secret encoded in like a private lockbox, frozen in time or whatever, or you could put it on YouTube in public in a video labeled, fighting fantasy, mod rules, and no one will watch it. I'm kidding. There you go. Hey, here's Robert Wagner. I was born August 22nd, 1982. I love RPGs too. Maybe it's a Leo thing. You never know. There you go. All right. So you were born on my 7th birthday. By the laws of Prima Nocturne, I own your ass. Stand and deliver. Bring forth the booty. Meet the Spartans? No? Do you like gladiator movies? No. Stop asking me. I want to leave right now. Meet the Spartans was great. You hate gladiator movies. That was a gladiator movie? Didn't mean like terms of endearment. What the fuck has happened to this kid? Jesus Christ. Kids in the Hall reference. The most obscure Kids in the Hall reference ever. I had a terrible childhood. I was 9 years old before I had my first piece of fresh fruit, and it was a lime. I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, somebody just did. That's somebody's CW chanter. There you go. Yada yada. And if anyone says they didn't see the videos, you could be like, oh, well, honey. I'll send a tweet when it works of this stream timestamp to where you said make the edit and the screen went weird for a second. It was neat. There you go. Everything means something. There are no accidents. There you go. Folks, I love you. Get involved. Play. Let me know how you're playing. Play. Come on, let's do this. Let's get out of revitalize. Craptacular. That was also the thing got me in trouble. Last thing got me in trouble. One thing. People are like, oh man, why would you buy this book and why would you buy like all of these books at once until you found out that you like the system? The problem with me is that like my mentality is I don't have a notion of like quality and not quality when it comes to certain things like genre fiction and role-playing game books. Like there's no such thing as the notion of a bad role-playing game book for me. Like I know that some people be like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, no, because like the worst role-playing game book in the world is like the worst role-playing game book in the world. It's like it's something. I don't know. Anyway, I love you. I'll talk to you soon. The conversation continues and it's ongoing. You can't have the whole conversation complete in one night. That's not how life works. It's more complicated than that, but that's why we have the time. Well, we have the time that we have. I'm glad that we had this time together. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.